I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. This is the Meridian Solid Waste Advisory Commission regular meeting for September 25th, 2024. It is now a minute after 4. And we'll start off with roll call. Please identify if you're present. Andy Arriaga. Bethany Guajardo.
Present.
Mark Nelson.
Present.
Megan Sonnen. Scott Walters.
Present.
Steve Corey, present. We'll move on to ex officio members. Rochelle Klein.
Present.
Waring being present, we'll go ahead and move to action item for adoption of the agenda. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at the agenda. Are there any comments on the draft?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as written. Second.
Been moved and seconded that the agenda be approved as drafted. Are there any comments or additions? Comments? Sensing the commission is ready for a vote. All those in favor of approving the draft agenda as written signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, say no. The motion passes. Thank you. We'll move on to approval of the August 28th, 2024 draft meeting minutes. Are there any comments on the draft minutes?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move that we approve the draft minutes as written for the August 28th, 2004 meeting.
I second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded that the draft minutes be approved as written. Are there any comments or motions in regards to the draft minutes? Sensing the commission is ready for a vote, all those in favor of approving the draft minutes for the August 28th meeting as written signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, say no. The motion passes. With that, we'll move on to staff program reports. First item under the reports will be the monthly presentation on, this month, the City of Meridian Solid Waste Plan. Sayre.
Yeah, so I figured I'd take an opportunity. We have some more time to talk a little bit more about the solid waste master plan. And this will be a little bit longer than our typical 101 presentations. So Lorelei, I believe it was last year, I can't remember the month, but she kind of did an overview of the plan and moving forward. So this is a little bit more of a deep dive into some parts of the plan that we can go through. So the master plan, as kind of was talked about before, is the first formal City of Meridian master plan made. It was completed last year by staff, and we're going to evaluate it every 5 years. So the plan kind of lays out right now 5 years of programs that I'll be working on and the city will be working on. And there's 3 main purposes of the plan was to identify program issues, establish program goals, and to kind of document the current, like what is our current program in a structured way where anybody can look back. And actually it really helps me look back to figure out what we've done is it's all in one place. And the stars that you see, those are the 2 things that I'm going to talk about in this meeting. So this is kind of just a quick glance of basically what's in the entire plan, so you guys have a quick overview of it. But again, was emailed out to you, but if you, again, want a copy, I can certainly send another one. So the main issues from when I was researching to write the plan were we found that the city had a relatively low overall average landfill diversion rate. And, each quarterly we talk about this and it does, it's hover around 8%, except for save leaf season where it really jumps up to the teens. There's a low recycling participation rate among commercial community. And when we mean by participation, it means only, we'll see some graphs, but I think it's around 40% of all of the potential commercial businesses in Meridian are recycling versus of all the potential residential customers who have carts. I think it's in the very high 90, like 99% or maybe 97%. So much higher participation rate. Meridian's contribution rate of organic materials sent to the landfill is still pretty high. And there's opportunity to increase equitable services throughout all of households. And we mean households, not just single family, but multifamily households as well. And then again, it's 5 years, a 5-year goal. So it's nothing set in stone, but we're hoping that in 2028, we can achieve a 20% diversion rate and have more comprehensive services for all different types of residents, households, and businesses. So this kind of shows what I've been showing about every quarter. It's hovers around, so you have commercial, which is kind of this pink, red color, and blue is residential. It peaks during the times where leaf season and then the Christmas trees, and then it drops down to around 8%. And then we're trying to get it to 20% diversion rate. So that line right there, that would be around 20%. That's where the graph we would like to see the graph at. And then down below, this is just more recent data from the last time that we talked about the diversion rate. So April, May, June of this year, around 8% and 7% for commercial, and then total 8, average 8. And then these graphs are taken from the solid waste plan. So that's why the years, we have these years. So here we're looking at participation, and you can see the population. You see the recycling participation for residential in green, which is in 2021 is 98%. So it's probably around there, or even a little bit higher. Commercial in gold, it's less than 50%. And then we have these other subscriptions that are, add on. And that's in how many carts, how many households there are. So 148 up to 170 now, or 2021 for glass. And then grass, which we're calling yard debris carts now, is much higher, around 500. And then this is just a graph of over time with green and gold of the SFD, single family households, looking at them, and then commercial. Because right now, MFD would be multifamily dwellings. They're considered house or commercial, so they're kind of lumped in that category. So based on the issues that we've identified and our goals that we want to address, these are our recommended actions to meet those goals within 5 years. The areas are community landfill diversion initiatives, education outreach development, and city operation improvements. And this is more of a little bit of a more dive deep in than the last overview that we talked about. So community landfill diversion initiatives. So improving existing program participation is one, and you know, that involves, in conjunction with outreach, just kind of understanding where we can work. And I think multifamily dwellings is one of them. Evaluate citywide composting program. We haven't started that yet, but that's within our 5-year timeframe. And that you probably heard that the city survey just came out yesterday, and I haven't looked at, but there's probably that question that Lorelei came to you about compost is in there, and that will help us kind of drive that evaluation. And then approving construction demolition waste management. So just looking into ways where we can incentivize or reach out to the commercial community to see what kind of needs, desires they have. Recycling non-traditional materials, you know, that can come from mattresses or other things, and even just including new materials. You know, Rochelle last month talked about, you know, changes in the MRF and then our potential to even get more materials diverted, and then promoting reduction in reuse. And Conrad's really spearheaded that. But actually, all joking aside, the Repair Fair Cafe is a really great opportunity that Boise has partnered with different communities, and that put on that we also think it's really helpful and valuable to have the community be able to have a place where you can fix things. And then also our, you know, Trash or Treasure event is really helpful. And I think a lot of communities or neighborhoods like it, and it's grown substantially throughout the years. And then education and outreach initiatives. We are looking to enhance in different ways. Here's an example of stuff we've done in the past and that we would want to further work on is the Recycle a Smart campaign. Some of this is taken from the Recycling Partnership. That's, I don't know if you know this, it's a well researched it's not a city, it's just kind of a nonprofit that basically puts out research on how best to reach the public about outreach, and it's available for municipalities to use their information. And then also working on updating our website. We've been slowly doing that, and that's what that picture is up there, the A to Z disposal guide. So having a kind of a place where people can go and, oh, I have an oil container, I have a stapler, what can I do with it? And then hopefully a really comprehensive list of where things can be disposed of, trash, recycling, compost. And then working with other like Boise or, you know, Ada County or Public Services, Timber Creek, everybody to kind of do more collaborative or education throughout the whole Treasure Valley, because not everybody lives and works in Meridian. Some people live in Meridian, but then they drive to Boise. And if everybody sees a very similar type of language and pictures, it really helps put 2 and 2 together. Kind of like I always talk about, it's kind of like driving. If you drove in this state and our stop signs were stars, and you move to Oregon and they're triangles, everything gets confusing. So it's really helpful to have some level of standardizing just to help it be more clear and to save the customer time too, and figuring out how to dispose of items. And then the last initiative is city operations. So again, I talked about earlier, working with our stakeholders. I have 3 main ones down below: Republic, Timber Creek, and the landfill, about different initiatives that we can work on together. Updating our solid waste ordinances is to make sure that it's more up to date on the programs that we're offering now, and implementing a kind of waste management practices within citywide operations. That's all I have for this presentation. Does anybody have any questions?
Multifamily, are they considered commercial because it's a large receptacle for recycling, or there is no recycling?
Well, multifamilies can have different options. Usually if they do have a recycling, it's a dumpster because it's they all share, but it depends on the size. But it's more the zoning and traditionally they are considered commercial, just by the zoning and sometimes by just how the hauler identifies it, just for billing. Yeah, yeah, that's it. So when I say, yes, multifamily commercial, it's 5 or more units. So 4 or less can, and that's a lot of places around the country. It's you can opt into the residential program and have carts and stuff like that. And that's the same here. But reaching out to them, and it's just a little bit harder since it's hard to mail out or reach out to, if you don't know who lives in that unit versus the owner who may not live here, or if it's a property manager. So, but that's all stuff that we can evaluate to see how best to reach out to those types of households.
And Sarah, I appreciate the presentation because it does help me a lot. So definitely was worth your time to present to me. But I wondered about the multifamily scenario also. So considering all the new construction, are there new accommodations so that you can actually provide receptacles in a way that people don't mix and match trash from recycle and all those sorts of things?
From my years of experience working in the multifamily world, it's multifaceted, I mean, you got to have a good location where you have trash and recycling right next to each other. Signs help, ease to get to it, but education is another big thing. And it, it really helps if you have a really dedicated or active property management team that's on site. So there's a lot of different ways to work on that.
It seems like contamination would be hard to avoid.
And that's really hard. And you can't just say, oh, unit 5, it's their plastic bags in here. You don't know who it is, unless you have, which I've worked with people, but I'm not recommending this, but who have cameras so you can see exactly who was in there. But no, it's just education and getting out there and talking with the public. And even like sometimes creating different types of carts. So it's harder, like carts were specific for flattening cardboard that encourages just putting cardboard in.
Port.
Hey, Steve, thank you for having me, Mr. Chair. So one of the primary ways that you can prevent contamination in multifamily housing is having adequate trash service to begin with. What we find at a lot of multifamily facilities is they kind of go bare bones on their service levels, and oftentimes that's just not adequate to support the facility. And so there's a lot, they need overload space, and so they just find the nearest recycle container and then use that. But most often, if they have adequate trash service, then people, as long as containers are properly labeled, they say recycling, then they'll default to the trash. So that's one thing that we can use as a primary effort to help clean up recycling at multifamily properties. The other thing is charging contamination fees. Now that puts the ownership on the property management and the ownership, but generally when you apply pressure in that sense, they tend to get active in their properties and get it done. So it's my 2 cents on it.
And Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, I wanted to add too that Meridian is way ahead of a lot of cities because it's required to have space at least in your enclosures. So Meridian, when you see all these new facilities going up, they have to leave space for a recycling container, even if they don't use it, right? But they have to build it. And so hopefully somewhere along the line, someone will come in and say, let's put, like Sarah said, just a cardboard only container with the long slit. Maybe start there and just get cardboard and box board in there. But the space is required here, which is really nice. So it's the first big step to have the city behind that kind of programming.
Members of the, member, Members of the commission, any additional comments or questions? Very good. Then I guess we'll go on to the next item on the agenda, which is solid waste rate updates. Sarah?
Yeah, so excited. I wanted it twice. Yeah, so it was on a consent agenda on Tuesday, and all three the resolution and amendments passed. So starting October 1st, what they discussed at the meeting last meeting, I think the rates have changed slightly. Actually, they've gone down slightly from the meeting that because they readjusted the rates differently. But those will all go in effect starting Tuesday, October 1st.
Members of the commission, any questions or comments on the rate, FY 25 rates? Sarah, thanks for reporting back to us on that. We'll go ahead and move on to the next item, which is the water bottle report for FY 24. And Sarah.
So it was definitely a lot busier this fiscal year than last. I decided to put down both right next to each other so we can compare them. So fiscal year 23, 3 halls, all 3 were clean. So WR is Western Recycling. And so it cost total of, $1,217, and it was 0.34 tons. This year, 5 halls, all clean, all to Republic Services MRF, but Western and Republic Services, and almost 3 tons, which is a good amount for, squishy water bottles are pretty light. And then obviously a little bit more money because we had more service. So yeah, that was pretty positive to see the difference. And I kind of feel like the location's good too. Because, you have to go through the scale, then you have to stop by a staff member who directs you to all the roll-offs that are, they've been moved. And then all the signs are kind of a little bit lower. That's one thing with sign placement, like kind of eye level. And it's really clear that it's for recycling only. So I think that probably helps as well. Does anybody have any questions on this slide?
Members of the commission, any questions or comments on the material presented?
I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I can note on here that we just dropped from $3,600 a ton last fiscal year down to about $500 a ton. That's astounding to go ahead and have that kind of a drop in costs. So hopefully we can kind of continue to get more material and go ahead and drop the rate more. I guess do we know how we managed to get the 2.39 tons in the June? Was that just a one-time ever type situation, or was that an event that brought in a lot of material at one time, or?
We're unsure about that. We have to kind of reach out to the MTS to see if maybe they know of anything or, I couldn't tell you because as far as I know, it's business as usual. It's left out there until it's full or contaminated, and luckily it hasn't been, contaminated. So, yeah, or maybe that's just.
That's okay.
At its
You don't-
peak, yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I'm just wondering if we can expect it in the future or whether that was just a one-time ever that just nice benefit that one time. Members of the commission, any comments or questions? Okay, I think we can move on to the next item, which is stakeholder updates. For public services, do you want to go ahead and present anything at this time?
Mr. Chairman, not really, just that we are in fall bike giveaway. So Meridian Elementary School contacted us looking for bikes, like 50 to 75 bikes. So our team will be putting together a pop-up bike store for them in the next couple of weeks. And other than that, we're expecting, we got some MRF upgrade approvals, like we had said we'd share with you timeline. And so it looks like both, right, the cardboard screen and the plastic mats were approved. Is that right? So there's a lot of lead time on getting those big pieces of equipment in at the recycling center, and then the redesign has to happen. So it's not like Legos where you can just plug and play. You have to redesign and move stuff around. So all of that being said, we're hoping by like Q2, Q3 of next year, having a new facility to share with you guys, to have you come through, just basically lots of upgraded technology. And it'd be good to have SWAC come back through and see it again once it's all changed up.
Thank you, Rochelle. Is that approval Boise City, or is it Ada County, or is it the state DEQ?
It's actually our corporate office had to approve the funding. It's a lot. We're getting a lot of upgrades next year. So we have to, get the funding approved, and then we'll have it re-engineered, and then we'll have to go to the county, Central District Health will have to, it may change our permit, like where we store stuff. They're very specific on, I don't know. Yeah, it's $7 million of upgrades next year. So the good news is it'll help us send more plastic, to the recovery facility down in Vegas so they can reprocess it. It'll help across the board with decreasing contamination and improving recovery. So yeah, it's $7 million that we've been wanting to see for a long time. And so it's exciting that we'll have a state-of-the-art facility by next year.
Well, thank you, Republic Services, for that authorization, and yeah, keep us informed on the regulatory agencies as they go ahead and what's going on. Anything else? Very good. Timber Creek, Tyler, you got anything you want us to? Okay. That moves us on to the next meeting. The next meeting will be October 23rd, 24. As kind of hinted somewhere in here, I think Meg will go ahead and talk a little bit about the community art contest and some of the legwork we're going to need to do to go ahead and make that happen next year. We'll have quarterly updates and possibly some some new information on household hazardous waste, since the contract is supposed to be signed soon. But as always, if there's some other subject that we haven't been thinking of that you need us to pick up, contact myself or Sayard, and we'll go ahead and get it on this agendas. With that, is there any further business that I've overlooked that needs to be considered at this time? Very good, then I will go ahead and since we've completed all the business that was on the agenda, I'll go ahead and call the meeting adjourned. It's 4:30, and thank you as always for your volunteered effort that goes ahead and makes Meridian a better place.